Welcome to my documentary. I'm Funky the Dragon. This film's going to be about the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, or the UNCRC to you and me. This is supposed to protect kids' basic needs like survival and education, as well as guarantee that they get a say in decisions that are made about them, which is hot! In total, there are 54 points in the convention, which they call articles. And later, if I can be bothered, I'll go into detail about exactly what they're supposed to do. We're also going to take a look at how kids are getting involved in reporting back to the UN about children's rights in their country. Next, we go onto the streets and find out what the kids of Wales would like to change about the way they're treated and what they're doing about it. But first, you need some history. The children's rights movement started at the beginning of the 20th century. This was after Europe had been mangled by the First World War. People still disagree about why it happened, but in 1914, all the most powerful countries in the world gathered their healthy young people together, lined them up on opposing sides of the battlefield, and sent them rushing in at each other's bullets and bayonets. 9 million people died in the fighting over the next 5 years, and millions of kids across Europe were made orphans. Eglantine Jebb, a teacher from England, was so disgusted by the slaughter, she decided to dedicate her life to campaigning for children's rights. She helped found Save the Children and wrote the Declaration of the Rights of the Child, which attempted to pressure those governments which had survived the war into protecting children. The winners of the war, minus America, founded the League of Nations, which they said was a way to guarantee peace and help prevent world wars from happening. On the positive side, in 1924 the League adopted Jebb's Declaration of the Rights of the Child, but they totally failed in their main mission. Afraid that Europe would go communist if they intervened, the League did nothing to prevent fascists from taking power. First, Mussolini in Italy, then Hitler in Germany, then Franco in Spain gained control of their governments and acted with open aggression against all other countries and their own people. Inevitably, World War II broke out, again with the parent killing and the carnage. This time, even more millions of people were killed in the First World War, even more children orphaned. Anyone who the Nazis decided were from the wrong race or religion, or held wrong political beliefs, was sent to concentration camps, either to be worked to death at hard labour, or to be herded into underground chambers and gassed. When the soldiers came for the Jewish orphans in the Warsaw Ghetto, Janusz Korczak, a popular children's author and paediatrician, refused to abandon the children in his care. Janusz was offered the chance to escape, but instead he chose to stay with the children and died in the gas chamber in Treblinka. After the war, once his story had become known, Korczak became a hero of the children's rights movement. Hitler was defeated in 1945, and the governments of Russia, the United Kingdom, France and other winners, including this time America, formed the United Nations, whose purpose, they said, was
to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war.
Unfortunately, the most powerful countries, especially America and Russia, couldn't hold out for very long. They'd barely sat on the sofa of peace before they started arguing about ownership of the remote control. They called this the Cold War, and got busy developing nuclear weapons in the arms race, cutting off trade to each other, and fighting proxy wars in South America, Korea and Vietnam. Despite all this, the United Nations carried on, raised an umbrella to keep the napalm off, and signed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, committing the governments of all countries to respecting the right to life, to liberty, to freedom of expression and association, and to education. The United Nations has survived until the present day, and is one of the main places that the children's rights movement applies pressure in its campaigns. After the war, the UN immediately adopted Eglinton's Declaration, expanding it in 1959 to a list of 10 rights. It took 30 years before the next major result, when in 1989 they adopted the much longer Convention on the Rights of the Child, which also lays down how the government of each country has to report back on children's rights. The convention is one of the most popular in the United Nations.